All right. We're drafting at the 7 spot. This is perfect. Let's start this draft off right now. $1 million to first place, the Best Ball Mania. Let's see if we can get the little glow in there from the candle. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, fellas. We are live. A best ball draft is starting in 40 minutes. We're streaming it live for you. We're in the midst of it right now. We're less than 3 weeks from the start of the season. I'm getting in 4 figures into player props and DFS every night in the NFL preseason. It's been fantastic. Profited in the props on every single slate so far. Barely profited last night. Won $100. We ended up getting lucky since Jason Huntley didn't play. We got some DNPs back, did not play from Prize Picks. But what's going on, Reed? This draft starts in 10 seconds, and let's pull it up on the screen right now. I'll be drafting off of the tiers, my tiers. You can use them if you want. Down below in the Supreme Draft Guide on BigEnergySports.com, there's a whole way of getting them down below. So let's zoom in on this. I like that I'm drafting from the 7 spot because in my home league, 11 days from now, my main league that we've been doing for close to a decade, I want to say 7 or 8 years at this point. In my home league, I will be, and I want to actually, let me grab this and put that on the other screen. There we go. In my home league, I'm actually going to be, love the content, Big Dog, getting them dollar rooskies. Hell yeah. In my home league, I'll actually be drafting from the 8 spot. So drafting from the 7 spot here gives me a nice opportunity. I want to play around with. So a strategy I want to play around with in this specific draft is later in the first round. It's a 12-team league. This is $1 million and $1 to first place. This contest on Underdog. You can draft there if you want to. Stephon Diggs goes at the 1-3. Wow, that's very early. But what I want to play around with is getting wide receivers at the end of the first round and then doubling up on them at the beginning of the second round, because I might do that in my home league. And also it's a strategy I haven't used that much here on this platform. The problem is I'm guaranteed at this 1-7 spot in Alvin Kamara or in Aaron Jones right now. But if Devonte Adams falls to me, I'm going to go with Devonte Adams and see what a build like that looks like. Got screwed playing Hurts last night, but still cash with the Patriots D and Taylor. Yeah, still cash with a lot of things. Taylor, the Patriots defense. I ended up having a couple lineups with Jacoby Myers. He wasn't insanely high in the tiers, but we got him. So now I'm here at the 1-7. I'm on the clock. Normally, I would draft Aaron Jones here. If this is my home league, I'm going to have a very hard time not taking Aaron Jones. But I want to see what happens if I can start off with 2 to 3 wide receivers in a row. I'll also be drafting at the 8th pick in my home league, so I might fall. But here we go. Devonte Adams at the 1-7. Normally, again, I take Aaron Jones there. Every single time so far I have, but I want to test out this strategy of going wide receiver with a late pick and then doubling up on them if another top one falls. I don't think Tyreek will be there, but maybe a Ridley or a Hopkins will fall back to me. That would be the overall goal. Alrighty. Tyreek Hill goes, and then Austin Eckler goes. All right. So Eckler's gone. Aaron Jones is still on the clock here at the 1-11 as Travis Kelce goes. How do you feel about taking Adams at the 102 in a keeper league when I have Rodgers kept in the 9th rounds? I'm probably not trying to take Adams at the 102, to be honest with you. I see what you're trying to do there in terms of like stacking up your correlation. Unless you're in like a 3 wide receiver PPR with bonus points league, I'm going to be going with one of Zeke or Dalvin Cook there. It's not a crazy idea, though. But I won't be doing it just because how uncertain a lot of positions are. All right, so we lose Ridley, which was a concern. I wanted to see if I can get Ridley there. Fellas, what's going on? Just did that. Went Adams and Hop with pick 7, says Hunter. Yeah, that's the ideal goal here, but I don't think Hopkins is going to fall another 5 picks to me. The 1-7's a hard spot to do it at because on that return pick, it's really hard to have one of those other top 5 receivers still there. So the 1-7 is a hard one to double up on. You'd almost have to get Adams at like the 1-8 or the 1-9, and then on the quick turnaround, you would be able to get like right here where these 2 guys are drafting. One of a Hopkins or a Ridley would be your goal there, as Nick Chubb goes. Would you consider a Waller a first rounder and a 1.5 PPR tight end bonus? I personally would not. I'd still consider him like a earlier to mid second, and I still wouldn't draft him there. Even though I would consider him there, I personally would not be drafting him there. So I'm 1 pick away. I might get Hopkins to fall to me. Gamble Grady has already taken a receiver. My guess is he's going to take another receiver. Tyreek and Hopkins is a great build to start with, but Joe Mixon is there. He takes Joe Mixon. So here we go. This is exactly what I wanted to do. As Hunter just mentioned in the chat, I want to try and build a lineup that starts with a couple of receivers instead of running backs. So I know running backs are what I usually go for in the first round. That's kind of my strategy, especially if you have an early round pick, a top 4, top 5 pick. But right here we have the pick 7. If I can start in my home league with Hopkins and Adams, I'm going to be feeling fantastic from the 1-8 spot. So now the top 12, 13 of my top 14 running backs are off the board. What's up, Sal? What's going on, Matt? How you doing, boss man? Circling back to that question about Adams at the 1-2, the top 6 running backs have been kept. Chubb is the number 1 running back on the board. Oh, Chubb is the number 1 running back on the board? I'd rather have Aaron Jones. Obviously you can stack Aaron Jones with some decent correlation, not insane correlation, but I think you can stack Aaron Jones there better. The top 6 running backs have been taken. Does that mean Aaron Jones is also kept? So I assume you're meaning McCaffrey, Cook, Zeke, Aaron Jones, Kamara, and then Henry have been taken. Then yeah, I would go Adams. If that's the 6 that you're considering that have taken. Yo, what's up, my boy? Skull Clown. What's going on, boss man? So if you're just joining in or you're watching the replay, we have Adams and we have Hopkins. We started this from the 1-7. I'm not usually a 0 RB type drafter, but in the late rounds, I think it's kind of necessary now at like the 1-9 or the 1-10 to get a strong wide receiver because 9 or 7 or 6 or 8 running backs are off the board. Because that next turn, like if you're forcing a running back there and it's like your first round pick is Joe Mixon, and then you're forcing your second round to be the wide receivers at that point, DK Metcalf, which after the top 5 receivers, it almost falls off a cliff in terms of how secure the players are. So I might start 3 wide receivers here and just try and secure like a Zack Moss type player in the 6th round, go double running backs at that point, just to see what a build like this looks like as I draft in my home league in 10 days from a similar draft spot and to get a different lineup exposure in my Best Ball Mania portfolio, if you will. Throw around some fancy words. Amari goes at the 3-4. I'm still on the clock here. Allen Robinson is staring me in the face 2 picks away. I don't think Allen Robinson makes it to me as these guys haven't taken receivers yet in front of me. But if you can start your draft with Hopkins, Adams, and Allen Robinson, borderline 3 of the top, those 3 guys, you would not be shocked if they all finish top 5. Robert Woods goes on 1 pick away with Allen Robinson there. I know Grinders is going to snipe me. He has 2 running backs. He has no receivers. Robinson is by far the best available receiver unless he thinks Evans is that good or Tyler Lockett. But man, I'm looking at the running backs. Swift is there, Henderson, Chris Carson. These are all fine 3rd round running backs, but I don't think they're that much different from what's going to be there in the 4th round. DeAndre Swift goes and we get Allen Robinson. This is not going to happen. Like, this might be $1 million winning lineup here. We just started this lineup off. This is why I love going 3 receivers in a row if you have a late pick. Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, and Allen Robinson. Normally, I usually see it as Adams, Ridley, potentially, and Amari Cooper. This is great. Like, if I started my home league with Adams, Hopkins, and Allen Robinson, 3 guys who every week can easily put up 16 points, 20-plus point upside week in and week out, that feels good. Do you plan on doing any videos with tips on auction-style salary cap drafting format, says Slade. Slade, I have never drafted in an auction. Call me a casual if you want to. I've never done auction. I've basically just been best ball, season-long, and dynasty player. I've never done an auction draft. I have nothing against them. I've just never been presented with the opportunity, and I've never gone out of my way to create the opportunity. So, yeah, I really have no fucking tips for you, to be honest with you. So the answer is no. Wow, Brandon Ayuk goes at the 3-11. I like Brandon Ayuk a lot, but this is just the steam on Brandon Ayuk right now is just through the roof. It's too much. Cooper Kupp goes, so now we got 3 receivers. I think now I go either elite quarterback or my first running back. And this is the thing. Like, why take a running back in the 3rd round? Like, at this pick when Allen Robinson is there, it's pretty clear I'm taking Robinson. But if Robinson would have gone, I'd probably go Tyler Lockett or Cooper Kupp. Why go a running back in DeAndre Swift or Chris Carson or Henderson when all of these guys right now are taking receivers? So odds are Montgomery, Miles Sanders, Henderson, Carson, one of those guys probably fall back to me as I'm now 4 picks away. I would love for Darrell Henderson to fall to me at the 4-6. This would be an elite start to the draft. Why not George Kittle there? I'm not high on George Kittle. They're going to have a rookie quarterback starting at some point in the season. George Kittle is at best the 2nd pass-catching option on his team. He probably is. He's not a big red zone threat for whatever reason in this offense. It's a run-first offense with Brandon Ayuk as the number 1 receiver and then Kittle and Debo after that. And with a rookie quarterback who's going to be mobile, maybe he starts by week 7, week 8, whatever it is. He's not going to start week 1 like many people want to unless he balls out his next 2 preseason games. There's concerns there. There's concerns for the volume of Kittle at this early. Like, if you told me Kittle in the 5th or 6th, sure. I don't take George Kittle in the 2nd or 3rd round like many people do. I personally don't see the upside. I know the talent of the player, but I personally don't. If he was in the Chiefs offense, sure. But he'd also be going as a first-round pick. I just personally don't see the upside. J.K. Dobbins goes, and now DJ Moore goes. We're 1 pick away from potentially landing Darrell Henderson as my RB1. David Montgomery's there if I don't. Chris Carson is still on the board. This is great. So Henderson goes to pick before me to gamble Grady. That sucks. I wanted Henderson there. So I have 3 receivers. I can start this bad boy off with 4 receivers in a row if I wanted to and go Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin. And I might just do that because like the running backs I'm looking at are Chris Carson, Miles Sanders. Those guys will all be gone, which is a concern. David Montgomery. I mean, I could go Montgomery here. Let's go Montgomery. So I'll take David Montgomery here. He'll be my running back 1. I get him in the 4th round. And now I'm not going to, and I don't draft Montgomery often. I'm not going to draft another running back now. I'll probably take 2 more receivers and then go elsewhere. If Pats cut Sony, will Rams scoop him up? I mean, Sony Michel has looked good. Sony Michel was the number 1 efficiency running back last year on a yards per carry basis, which I know is not the greatest of stats. Great offensive line you're running behind. On a limited sample of 89 touches, he was top 5 in yards per touch, including his receiving numbers. So it's a very small sample for Sony Michel behind an awesome offensive line. But Sony Michel was good last year. I know they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, but why would you? Why would you pick up his 5th-year option for a first-round running back when the Patriots, when they drafted him, since then it's obvious you don't take first-round running backs. Why would you pick up his 5th-round option when you have Damian Harris, a 3rd-rounder, when you just drafted Ramondre Stevenson, right? There's no reason for them to pick up his 5th-round option. It's not like he's been Saquon Barkley for them and a big, and not even just good player, but Saquon Barkley for New York is fans in seats. Like, these players put fans in seats. People automatically jump to, you signed a first-round running back. What is wrong with you? Or you're drafting running backs too high, or you're paying the contract to the running back like Zeke and some of these other guys, Dalvin Cooks, right? Alvin Kamara's. But what people fail to mention, and Kamara is basically a wide receiver 1, so it's a little bit different for his role of getting paid. But what people fail to mention when you talk about the running back narrative of, running backs shouldn't be paid, and unless they get a good deal like Aaron Jones or Nick Chubb, which are team-friendly deals. That's wrong, because it's not just how they perform on the field. As much as people want it to be, the fans want it to be, we have to be a good team this year. That's not what football is all about. It's also about making money. That's probably the number 1 priority it is for these owners, right? The number 1 priority is making money. And if you put an Ezekiel Elliott on the field compared to a Tony Pollard before, I mean, we know who Tony Pollard is as fantasy players, but everybody in the global world, the national news people, they're going to talk about Ezekiel Elliott much more because he brings either more controversy, he brings more splash, the guy does the feed Zeke, he has these cutoff tank tops, right? When he comes into the league, he's a brand. He brings stuff to the team outside of just his performances. He brings them much more dollar-ooskies and ads and branding and marketing for them. So there's much more that goes into it than just that whenever people have that type of an argument in terms of just not to pay a running back. But to circle back from the tangent, Sony Michel has not done anything to bring brand to the team, so no reason to sign him to the 5th-year deal for his first-round pick. So now we got some guys off the board. I'm looking here as Miles Sanders is gone. I'm looking here as Chris Carson is gone. I don't want to take a running back here, so I think I'm just going to pile on. I think I'm just going to go Jerry Jeudy. I mean, I'm looking at the quarterbacks. There's a Lamar Jackson. There's a Dak Prescott here. Lamar is an interesting option to take here. I kind of want to go there. I might go there, but fuck it. Let's go there. We'll go to Lamar Jackson. I know all of his pass catchers, literally all of them. Sammy Watkins got banged up this past week in camp. All of his pass catchers are hurt outside of Mark Andrews, but we secure the 5th-round quarterback with the elite upside, the number 1 overall quarterback upside because of his rushing ability. I like that a lot for best ball drafts. We'll come back around here in the 6th round, and we'll see what's left on the board between receiver and running back. Jerry Jeudy would have been my other option there as a 4th receiver. He ends up getting taken right there. But now I don't have to draft a quarterback for a very long time. Are the tier rankings up for tonight's slate? The tier rankings for the slate for preseason tonight? No, they're not up. They'll go up like 3-ish hours before the game. I'm just trying to wait as much information as we can get from the coaching staffs. We usually get some sort of news 5 hours before, once the teams actually get to the stadium and there's some reporters out there talking to them. So instead of redoing the entire tiers or making 17 updates so people have to redo all their lineups, I just wait until 2 to 3 hours before when we don't get as much news coming in. If anything, we'll have 1 piece of news. Yesterday, unfortunately, we didn't get the Jalen Hurts news until 9 minutes after lock. Deebo Samuel goes there. Not really my cup of tea, personally. So Travis Etienne is still there in the 6th round. That's very appealing. His ADP has been falling lately because of the usage in preseason week 1, which was literally a half a quarter out of it. So, yeah. Why not Etienne as your RB2 instead of Lamar or Juss? I don't know who Juss is, but Lamar I won in the 5th round because he wouldn't have been there. I want an elite upside quarterback in terms of mobility. Kyler Murray would be my number 1 option, but he was taken. And the only other options were Dak and Lamar, and I think Lamar has more upside than Dak from a rushing standpoint, which just makes it a little bit easier, and uncapped upside from a receiving standpoint once all these receivers are healthy, hopefully a month into the season. But Travis Etienne is my RB2. There's nothing wrong with that. I might do it, but I also kind of just want to continue to pile on. I already got a David Montgomery, so I might just, and there goes Etienne, so it makes my decision easier. Right now, Chase Edmonds, Kareem Hunter left, but I don't want them. Zack Moss, Myles Gaskin, Damian Harris. Zack Moss is an option that I like, but not at the 6'6", right? So I'm looking here, and I'm probably going to go. I could pair up Lamar with Mark Andrews here, but taking an early round tight end and quarterback is usually not the best way to go. You're just losing out on so much opportunity cost at the wide receiver position. So Mark Andrews is there. Pitts is gone. I don't really want to take Mark Andrews here, to be honest with you. I know it's a nice stack, so that's the main reason I would look at it. Wide receivers, Kenny Gallaudet, Michael Gallup, Juju. Running backs, nothing standing out. Like, this is an interesting spot to take Mark Andrews because of the stack ability. So I'm going to go Mark Andrews. I don't normally do this, so I like the way my draft started with the three wide receivers. Devonte, I mean, having those three receivers, you don't really have to get too many more stud receivers. Devonte, DeAndre Hopkins, and Allen Robinson, that's a great way to start the draft. If we could have got Darrell Henderson over David Montgomery, we got sniped one pick before, I would have felt great. But we get David Montgomery. Now we stack up Lamar, Mark Andrews 6 rounds through. I feel good about this because I'm not drafting a tight end until the 18th round now, since I got Mark Andrews. I'm not drafting a quarterback probably till the 15th, 16th round, build a backdoor stack. So right now, it's the next 10 rounds or so is just hammer receiver and get 2 to 3 more running backs. And that's where I'm at with that. Hopkins-Murray stack, I would have ideally liked to get the Murray stack over Lamar, yes, at the 5 spot. Robinson higher upside than Kittle by far. I agree. I have Mike Davis and Zack Moss on my bench in a 12-team league. That feels great. Hey, Sal, I know the optimal construction for underdog is 2, 4, 10, 2, but with DraftKings having 2 more bench spots, what do you think the optimal build is there? What's going on, Alex? I haven't built a single best ball team on DraftKings. I don't know if it's because, I mean, the main reason is because I think Underdog's a better platform, but the other reason is just like logistics. Like DraftKings just came out with their desktop version, literally over a year after they released their mobile version. And the desktop versions are way easier for me to be looking at rankings and doing other stuff with my browsers than to just draft on a phone where I don't have as much accessibility from a screen standpoint. So, I mean, now that we're 3 weeks from the season, I'm just in the groove of only drafting on Underdog. I haven't maxed out the Best Ball Mania yet, so I just haven't drafted on there. So I can't give you the best advice for that. When there's 2 more rounds, though, it's probably another receiver and another. When there's 2 more rounds, it depends on how you build the lineup, right? So for the most part, for me, it's probably just another receiver, another running back. So 5 running backs, 11 receivers. But it depends on how you build it. If you don't have a secure stud quarterback, I probably pick up a third quarterback, a sleeper type guy, a guy who has some mobility and some upside, maybe a Cam Newton, maybe a Tyrod Taylor. These guys with some sort of mobility. Robert Tonyan he goes early there at the 7-4. He continues to rise right now up people's boards. I'm trying to get rid of all the people who've been taken right now. I think there's a lot of great receivers left as I'm a couple of picks away right now. Like Sutton goes and some of these other guys are going. Myles Gaskin goes, but that's fine. I mean, right now where I'm at, I feel good about what's left on the board for me. Herbert goes. This is all good. Kareem Hunt goes. This is all fine. Like, I can take another running back here, but I still think we're too early. Like, at the 7-7, it's still too early, in my opinion, to take a Zack Moss. I mean, there's a Damian Harris left. There's a Zack Moss. I don't really want Damian Harris in the 7th or 8th round. I mean, no pass-catching upside. Kenny Gallaudet is still on the board here in the 7th round. I mean, what is the recent reports on Kenny Gallaudet, right? Slated to sit out the Sunday game. Yeah, it's just the same reports on his hamstring, right? So, I mean, I'm taking Kenny Gallaudet in the 7th round. I don't really like Kenny Gallaudet all that much. I don't like Daniel Jones. I don't like the fact that they have not put him in a position to succeed now in 3 years in the NFL behind a terrible offensive line yet again. But that being said, at the end of the 7th round to get Kenny Gallaudet as my wide receiver 4 for a guy who usually goes in the 6th round, there's been no setbacks. I mean, I read all the camp reports as of 10 a.m. this morning. So unless something came out in the last 2 hours that he's had a setback in camp, then I guess I burned the 7th round pick, but I don't think that's the case. So, I mean, I'll take Kenny Gallaudet all day. I don't even know what my bye weeks are looking like at receiver. 13, 12, 10, and 10. Perfect. We're fine. Running backs 10. So, 4 strong receivers, a stud tight end, a stud quarterback, and a fine running back as my David Montgomery should see a large workload, goal line responsibility, some pass catching duties. We'll see how much Damian Williams, who did look good, factors in there. Judy, I understand Lamar, but a 4th receiver instead of your RB2. Yeah, in best ball, I don't really care about the RB2 too much. There's just, I mean, my RB2 there would have been Damian. Like, the RB2s that I could have gotten there are basically still on the board right now. So there's no reason to draft an RB2 where my 4th receiver would have been. Like, the differences between what was left on the board at that point and now, like Kareem Hunt, Chase Edmonds, there's no difference between those guys and Zack Moss, Trey Sermon, Damian Harris, even A.J. Dillon, in my personal opinion. So it's just value drafting. Like, sure, I would like to get a strong RB2 in round 5 instead of Lamar, but there's no strong RB2s left because everybody just takes fucking running backs, as you should to a certain extent. You shouldn't continue to pound running backs when you're just drafting guys that overvalued at that point. And that's what a lot of people, I think, fail to realize until it's too late. Logan Thomas goes, I think he's a very solid option. Tom Brady going right now. I mean, unless you're stacking this up with all of the, I assume he's stacking it up. Mike Evans, he only has Mike Evans. Like, Tom Brady's a brutal pick. I mean, no rushing upside. Aaron Rodgers last year had an MVP season, one of the best seasons we've seen all time out of a quarterback, had some rushing upside to him, and he still couldn't break like the top 4 wide receivers or the top 3 wide receivers because he has not as much elite mobility. I'm on the clock here. My best running backs left are Damian Harris, Zack Moss. Still on the board at wide receiver is Will Fuller, Jarvis Landry. It might be time to go RB2 at the 8-6. There's Damian Harris, there's Michael Carter, there's James Robinson, there's Zack Moss is still there. I think I'm going to go here with another receiver, and we're going to go Will Fuller, who will miss 1 week of the season, but apparently Tua looks good. Tua looked fine in the first preseason game. We'll go Will Fuller as our wide receiver 5. We still just have 1 running back. Now, if you're tuning in for the first time, I rarely draft like this. I normally have 2 running backs in my first 2 picks. I'm trying to go with a different approach in this one. And I like the way that this has started. Devonte Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, and Allen Robinson, I will take those 3 all day over some sort of combination of, let's just say you start instead with Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, and like Cooper Kupp. I will take the 3 receivers that I just said, who all are basically borderline top 10 receivers. Now, at my next pick, I'm going to go running back at my 9th pick, assuming that all these guys don't go off the board. But at my next pick, I'm hoping a Zack Moss is there, who's expected to play this week over his hamstring injury. News broke that he's expected to play. If he's not there, there's still Trey Sermon on the board. There's still a A.J. Dillon on the board. These are guys that I'm fine with. So at my 9th and 10th pick, I think I'm going to double tap running back, but we have to see who's left. Ideally, they will fall to us. Don't sleep on Michael Strachan in Indy. I'm not sleeping on him. I had a lot of 7th round pick Mike. Actually, I think it's not Strachan. It's like Strahan or Strachan. I heard him say it on the broadcast, but I'm not sleeping on him. Don't worry about that. I'm well aware of who he is and what he did out of the small school that he's coming from. 7th round pick from the Colts. I think the first pick of the 7th round this past year, Mike. Yeah, I had a lot of him last week. I had a lot of him and Desmond Patton. Both those guys, bigger bodied receivers. Patton, a 2020 draft pick. I think a 6th rounder. Didn't get to play because no preseason last year. Alrighty, we're coming back around on our next pick, and a lot of the running backs that I wanted, not a lot of them, I mean, just Damian Harris for the most part. Like, Michael Carter's gone, but I'm fine with that. I'm not dying to get Michael Carter personally. Marvin Jones goes at the 9-1, so sadly I can't get my boy Marv Jones anymore in the 10th round because of, I mean, maybe just my content, but also people seeing the preseason that he's actually probably more than people expected going to be involved in the offense. I think Marvin Jones is by far and away the number 1 receiver on that team. I mean, Laviska Shenault, people can get excited about him. He's a slot receiver who might get a little bit more usage than that. And then DJ Chark has never really been efficient in the NFL. He's needed volume to survive. And you know what? Laviska Shenault is not going, or DJ Chark is not going to get a lot of volume, in my opinion, this year. Okay, thank you, sir, for not taking the man that I wanted, and that is going to be Mr. Zack Moss. So Zack Moss, this is just beautiful. I mean, here's the thing. Zack Moss gets, so this is why I didn't take a RB2 when somebody said, why didn't you take an RB2 with your 5th pick? Because I just got Zack Moss in the 9th round, a starting running back on one of the top 5 offenses in the league, but Devin Singletary's there. Okay, a starting running back on one of the top 5 offenses in the league, when in the 5th and 6th round, people were taking Chase Edmonds and Kareem Hunt, who are both in split backfield as well. So what's the big difference in the situations there? Chase Edmonds isn't going to get the goal line work. Zack Moss probably will when it's not Josh Allen, right? Kareem Hunt isn't going to get the 2-down work and a lot of the goal line work. So that's why I just don't understand. Like, Kareem Hunt goes in the 6th round. Chase Edmonds goes in the 5th or 6th rounds. In the 9th round, you can get Damian Harris and Zack Moss that are not that much different. And Zack Moss is actually on a top offense. So yes, please. Give me that all day. I mean, the wide receivers that I ended up with to still get David Montgomery and Zack Moss as my running backs, and that's with me burning a pick on Mark Andrews to stack him up with Lamar Jackson. I feel really good about this build right now. I mean, not even to mention Kenny Gallaudet and Will Fuller, all of which all these guys I'm naming could be the wide receiver 1s on their team. I mean, Kenny Gallaudet profiles as that, and nobody's shocked to see if Will Fuller's the wide receiver 1 over Devontae Parker. But Jalen Waddle's out there. He's not going to be the wide receiver 1. I can tell you that right now. As much as people have the rookie fever and love him, I think Jalen Waddle's a weapon. Drafted way too fucking early at the draft pick that they took him at. I mean, having people learned about John Ross, having people learned about everybody's just trying to find the next Tyreek Hill, spending the 6th overall pick to do that, probably not the best idea. Don't people know Corey Davis took, outside of last year finally doing something, was going to be a bust? Don't people remember Tavon Austin, right? All this stuff. These undersized receivers that people want to be the next big thing. Again, he could be fantastic. He'd be great in the NFL. The odds are not in his favor to pay off the 6th pick in the draft. especially when you just got Will Fuller. Like, my God, go get yourself some Penny Sewell. Just continue to stack the line. The Bengals and Miami struggling to realize that in the draft. Running back is still fine. Like, James Conner, a 2-down back. Like, James Conner goes in the 10th and 11th round, right? What's the difference between James Conner and Chase Edmonds? James Conner is probably going to be the goal line back. He's probably going to be the first and second down back. Chase Edmonds, as of right now, is profiling out as the third down back, which people are hoping for more upside. Should I trade away Gaskin for Edmonds? I prefer Edmonds over Gaskin, yes. You're going to have a hell of a void at running back on a week-to-week basis. I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to have a hell of a void at running back on a week-to-week basis. I mean, this is a best ball league, right? I just need 2 running backs that have decent scores. If I'm dominating every other position at quarterback, at running back, I'm going to feel fine with that. So let's see what's the best available left on the board. A.J. Dillon's still there right now in the 10th round. That screams out as a value. I might just go 3 running backs in a row because wide receiver is kind of shallow here. So let's go A.J. Dillon. So just like that, I have 4 running backs. And I might not have to draft another running back. Let's see what the buys look like. So I have 3 running backs. So I have Montgomery, Zack Moss, and A.J. Dillon. That feels great. I mean, those 3 running backs feel great for what I was able to get at receiver. Devonte Adams, Hopkins, Robinson, and then Gallaudet and Will Fuller. So this feels like a very nice win. Gus Edwards is still on the board. I mean, this is just fantastic. I'm falling behind, though, from fucking ranting to myself in my room with all these lights on me. Lights, cameras, action. I'm falling behind on who is actually left on the board right now, but I think we're, for the most part, caught up. There we go. Melvin Gordon goes. Again, a solid option in the 10th, 11th round for these running backs if you're going receivers early. Terrace Marshall goes, who's now going inside the top 11 rounds. This team is unreal, says Hunter. You think it's good, right? I think it's decent. Zeke and A.J. Brown or Adams and Swift? Zeke and A.J. Brown. Hit that like button, fellas. I appreciate that. What are your thoughts on last night's game? I don't really have any thoughts on last night's game. The Patriots won 35-0. They cashed a -2 bet that I had on them last second once I saw the Jalen Hurts news. I profited $100 in the player props market. DFS, we profited as well. Thank you to the Patriots defense and captain spots. Thank you to J.J. Taylor having a nice game. Thank you to Wilkerson continuing to get nice targets and overall usage. So, I mean, in terms of the takeaways from the game, Cam Newton looked good. I thought that Mac Jones looked really good. I mean, his throw down the sideline that N'Keal Harry got hurt on was a beautiful fucking throw. So, yeah. I mean, that's basically it. There's no takeaways from the Eagles. The quarterbacks did nothing. Kenny Gainwell really didn't do too much with his opportunities. There was really no other guys left there. They pulled the starters kind of early. My main takeaways from that is that it seems like Quez Watkins is going to start in the slot for the Eagles, which is pretty big news in my opinion. So those are my main takeaways. Yeah, I guess it's a decent amount. So Quez Watkins in the slot seems to be starting. Mac Jones does look good, but so does Cam Newton. I don't think Mac Jones starts for the season. And yeah. The Patriots like to run the ball with Ramondre Stevenson. I don't think that that'll be an issue, though. Like, I don't think Stevenson is going to start the season as the Patriots running back. Nelson Aguilar goes. Emmanuel Sanders goes. That's early for Emmanuel Sanders, in my humble opinion. So Rashad Bateman's here. I don't want to take him in the 11th round. I don't want to draft the guy that is banged up this early. Do you think Rodgers is going to funnel even more passes this year to Adams to make sure he gets a monster contract next year? No, I don't. I mean, I think it's just hard to funnel more than he already did last year. So, no, I don't. We're at the end of the 11th round here. We have Paris Campbell. We have Cole Beasley still on the board. I'm not really looking at another quarterback or tight end. Running backs available. Gus Edwards is here. I mean, Gus Edwards is somebody that I am fine going another running back to because the receivers all kind of look similar to me. So, I'm going to go Gus Edwards. So now we have 4 running backs. Leonard Fournette's there. Let's go Gus Edwards. Giovanni Bernard scares me. So, we go Gus Edwards. We get our 4th running back. I mean, I might be done on running backs now. I think I'm pretty solid on running backs. A.J. Dillon, Gus Edwards, Zack Moss, David Montgomery. So now we got, 7 rounds left. I just need a running back, or I just need a quarterback, a tight end, and a bunch of receivers. I'll probably take another running back late. But the problem is that this round, taking 3 running backs in a row is not an ideal strategy. I probably wouldn't do this too often. But the problem is Gus Edwards is my RB30. The next best running back left is my RB40. Like, he fell way too far. Gus Edwards to me is a late 9th round pick. I got him at the end of the 11th. So the problem there is that the wide receivers that were left, like, I'm looking at my best available receivers before that pick is Paris Campbell, Traquan Smith, A.J. Green, Cole Beasley, Rashad Bateman, who's banged up and I don't really want right now, Jalen Reagor, Christian Kirk. Like, these are not guys that, they're not that different from each other, and there's going to be definitely guys left. I mean, no receiver has been taken in the last 4 picks, so definitely those names that I just said, some of them are going to be there in the 12th round. So why take a pick on them in the 11th round when that running back that I just took in the 11th round definitely would not be there in the 12th round? Because he already had fallen way too far. So I just have to make sure I don't get a quarterback. I should start looking at my stacks. I know Justin Fields, he's probably off the board because his ADP is rising after one preseason game. I can't get DeAndre Hopkins stacked. I can get Daniel Jones late stack with Kenny Gallaudet. I can get a Tua stack with Will Fuller. That doesn't feel terrible. I can go back with Mike Gesicki, who I'm very low on, so I don't want to have to spend an earlier tight end pick on him. Yeah, so I think that this is a fine build. Just got to make sure I don't double up the same bye weeks on my tight end or quarterback. Traquan finally goes. So my next picks, I'm looking at AJ Green, Paris Campbell, MVS. These are guys that I'm looking at. Rashad Bateman, if he continues to fall. I don't know how far he'll fall. I'm a pick or two away. I'm going to go receiver here. Is Cole Beasley really still on the board? Jesus. Cole Beasley's ADP is 137, which puts him at a what? That puts him at the 11-4. So he would have fallen more than a round right now to me as the wide receiver 2 on a top 5 offense. That feels pretty good. I'm not against going Cole Beasley here. He's not the sexiest of names, especially with his age as a slot receiver. But unless you think you're going to see a massive step backwards from Josh Allen this year, I think it's a fine option. Rashad Bateman is here, but I don't want to have to deal with a rookie not getting his camp or preseason in and going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Devin Singletary goes. So, yeah, I have my options here. I have Cole Beasley, I have Paris Campbell, I have AJ Green. Cole Beasley is by far my best available receiver. He's my wide receiver 51. My next best is Campbell at wide receiver 58. So I'm going to go Cole Beasley here. I think that's pretty strong value in the 12th round. Slot receiver, great red zone weapon for a top 5 offense. Obviously coming off a career year in the twilight years of his career. The only reason that he's not getting drafted as a 9th, 10th round pick is because he's saying that he's not playing this year on Twitter because of the vaccine. So if he holds true to that, then the 4 to 5 best ball teams that I have with him in the 12th round, they take a slight hit downwards. But if he doesn't, they take a massive hit upwards. So I'll take that somewhat implied risk, right? Rashad Bateman finally goes. I already have my Lamar Jackson stack. I can get Sammy Watkins later if I wanted to. Which football team do you root for? I know you're from New York. Yeah, I'm originally from Staten Island, New York. I'm a Packers fan, though. There's no sense to it. My dad's older brother, who's my uncle, that's funny how that works, he just liked the Packers. He started watching the Packers when they were younger. Everybody else in my family is Giants fans. I am a Packers fan. Packers are like the only team. I'm like my team, my family, Bruins fans, Yankees fans, but in terms of like actually watch the games and have some fandom left, like I went to Penn State, so for Penn State football games, the pride or the alumni stuff in terms of rooting for them. But outside of that, like the Packers, I'm barely holding on by a string to any sort of fandom left. Like in terms of rooting for teams, I don't, unless it's the playoffs, that's like the only time that I actually get when there's something on the line. Like regular season week 1 and week 2, I enjoy watching the games. But if they lose the game, unless it's like a heart-wrenching defeat, like when MVS fumbled against the Colts last year, that was kind of like, fuck, you gotta be kidding me, because it was such a good game. But I don't know. I'm just not as invested in like fandom anymore. It's kind of just like postseason because it's like do or die. But I think I've become numb to it because of how much I bet on player props and fantasy and all this stuff, betting in general. It makes it difficult to actually give a shit about what they're doing because it doesn't actually affect me. And if it does affect you like in a massively negative way, it shouldn't. I think the main reason why, though, that I really enjoy still the Packers is, Aaron Rodgers makes it really fucking easy to enjoy the Packers, Brett Favre into Rodgers. So, that's just being spoiled. But the other reason is just kind of what comes along with football Sundays, like the tradition, like watching with a bunch of people, drinking some beers, eating some nachos, chilling out. When the playoffs come around, it's my favorite time of the year because the Packers are always in the fucking playoffs. But because I go home, I get there with all my cousins, with my parents. There's like 12 of us, 14 of us. We're watching the playoff game together. Luckily, the last couple of years, the Packers have won in the first round. So that's made it a little bit better, beating the Seahawks and the Rams in back-to-back years. So it's just fun. It's just fun. Now I'm on the clock again. My ideal goal here is to go wide receiver yet again, depending on what's left on the board. I believe Paris Campbell is still there, but so is AJ Green. I'm going to go Paris Campbell. I have him as my wide receiver 58. AJ Green is my wide receiver 60. I'll double tap AJ Green here and go double receiver with my 14th pick if he's still on the board there. And then I might be done with receiver because I have to go quarterback, tight end, and I might get a 5th running back just based on the way that I started this one. But I have 7 receivers right now. I'll probably get 2 more. I have Adams. I have Hopkins. I have Allen Robinson, Kenny Gallaudet, Will Fuller. All can be wide receiver 1s in their team. Cole Beasley, a strong wide receiver 2, and Paris Campbell in an offense that doesn't have a sure wide receiver 1. I think it'll be Michael Pittman, but who knows? Would you get Watson from the waivers? Deshaun Watson isn't playing this year, so you can get him and just like have hopeful and wishful thinking that a miracle happens and that all these cases are done from him. But Deshaun Watson, the most recent news as of the past couple of days, is that the FBI is now investigating Deshaun Watson. So when the FBI starts investigating a player, it's no longer I never had the stance of all these women and they're just it's not a class action lawsuit. It's not like they all just have to sign their name on a piece of paper. They're all separately getting lawyers and lawyering up and going against him. So that's not good when it's 2020 plus different cases, right? And now the FBI is getting involved for criminal charges. So yes, he's not playing this year. So there was like one draft where I took him in like the 18th round, and that was before this FBI news came out. But you can pick him up off your waivers. I would drop, if you want to drop a defense and pick him up, but I would not drop somebody who's actually going to contribute to a fantasy team this year to pick up Deshaun Watson. He is not playing NFL football this year. There's no way. And if he's lucky, he'll be able to play next year. And by lucky, I mean that this isn't as bad as it currently seems on the surface. Because whenever you say the FBI is starting to investigate someone who has 20 plus sexual abuse cases against him right now, it's not looking too good. It's not looking too good. I mean, that just screams absolute dirtball scumbag. So we shall see, but he's not playing football this year. And I mean, he doesn't even want to play for the Texans. So the Texans, they don't want to trade him because they're going to get pennies on the dollar for him at this point, right? They're going to still view him as an asset. All other teams are viewing him as a distressed asset. So they don't want to trade him. He doesn't want to play for the Texans. So even if somehow a miracle happened, you still don't even know if he's going to play this year. So yeah, don't pick him up. It's kind of wasting your time, in my opinion. What is MVS's ADP? Because we can get him in the 14th round. So MVS currently goes in best ball. I mean, in standard leagues, he goes in like the 18th round right now. But MVS currently goes around the 12th round as his ADP, but he's still on the board. Let's go up. Let's pony up yet again, and let's go with another fucking receiver. So we have MVS and Devonte Adams. I mean, MVS right there in the 14th round for a 12th round ADP. MVS to me is one of the best values in any single draft. In your season-long leagues, you can get him probably in the 16th to 18th round, not the 14th. Like, this is as sharp as it's going to get for ADP. People that are actually paying attention every single day, updating their rankings every day on Underdog. But MVS, you're going to be able to get him in like the 18th round. He's by far the wide receiver 2 out there. But Randall Cobb is. No, he's not. Randall Cobb will be the security blanket underneath guy. He's not going to have as much yardage. He's probably not going to have as many targets as MVS. Definitely not downfield targets. MVS leading the league in yards per reception last year. Apparently gotten a lot better this offseason. If you saw my most recent TikTok, MVS is one of the 7 receivers I talk about. So right now, I need to start to get a second tight end and a second quarterback. The problem is... getting my second quarterback is going to be difficult. If Daniel Jones doesn't have a similar bye week, I might go for him. He does not have a similar bye week. Sammy Watkins is a name to at least for me to start looking at as he just got drafted, so never mind, to get an even bigger stack options. Jared Cook, I'm just going to take my final tight end probably with the 18th pick, get me a Zach Ertz, a Hayden Hurst. Those guys will definitely be involved. They'll finish as borderline top 20 tight ends, and I don't have to spend another higher value pick on them. In terms of running backs, Tevin Coleman still there, James White. There's still a lot of good receivers off on this board. Giovanni Bernard's still there. It's going to be my 15th round pick. I mean, receiver 18th round, I'm just going to go with Hunter Henry's still on the board for a tight end. I mean, 18th round, I'm just going to go with the tight end, but if Hunter Henry's still there, we might have to say different things. Daniel Jones is still on the board. I can pair him up with Kenny Gallaudet. Daniel Jones' ADP right now is the 15-3, so maybe I take him at the 15-7 just to be safe. There's nobody else I could really pair up at this point. Tua has been taken. Wentz with Paris Campbell isn't a bad idea. It would be a risk to not take a quarterback here, though, and hope that one falls back to me. All the running backs that I really want are gone. The receivers that I'm looking at, I can get them in another round. I mean, at this point, it becomes Hunter Henry. Who would you guys take? I'm going to pick away. Hunter Henry as my tight end 2 behind Mark Andrews, who I have graded highly, or would you take a quarterback here and either Wentz to secure a stack with Campbell or the Kenny Gallaudet, Daniel Jones stack? I think Daniel Jones has more upside from a mobility standpoint, not starting the year off injured. So Daniel Jones, I think, is going to be the guy I'm going to go to. But let me know who would you take here, because Hunter Henry probably not going to be there at the next pick. But I already have a tight end that I can rely on for the most part. All right, I don't think people are going to be able to answer in time, but we got 10 seconds. After I saw Ertz last night, there's no way I can draft him. I mean, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are not that far apart from each other, and people think that they are. So we go Daniel Jones there. We secure my second quarterback, my second stack. So now we got 3 picks left for a wide receiver, running back, and tight end that seems to be appropriate. And by me saying that Zach Ertz, and there goes Hunter Henry because he's by far a screaming value left on the board. By me saying that Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are not that far apart, don't get me wrong, I think Dallas Goedert is a better talent, but Dallas Goedert is like my tight end 13 right now, and Zach Ertz is like my tight end 25, 24, something like that. It's not as far off as it seems. It's not as far off as the media is going to make it seem. Yes, Zach Ertz had a terrible season last year. I completely agree with that. I don't think Dallas Goedert's season was that elite by any means. And Zach Ertz is still there. He's still going to be running a lot of routes. They're still going to, by all accounts it seems, rely on their tight ends. So if it's the 18th round, I'm fine to take a tight end there in Zach Ertz. I mean, there's literally no downside. If he sucks, you just drop him and then stream some other tight end. Obviously, this is best ball, so it's a little bit different, but in terms of your regular season leagues. Thoughts on Noah Fant taking a jump this season? I mean, Noah Fant is one of 10 tight ends that can take a jump. Is it going to be Irv Smith? Is it going to be Gerald Everett? Is it going to be Blake Jarwin, who's always available late? I mean, just throw the name in a hat and hope. Noah Fant, it looks like Drew Lock is currently leading the quarterback battle. Mark Ingram gets taken in the 15th round. I mean, that guy might not be on a football team after the August 31st final cutdowns. I haven't seen Mark Ingram getting taken until literally this draft. What is that guy doing? Yeah. What is Gold Rush the rest of his team? Gold Rush's team is a bit brutal. It's a bit brutal. I mean, he took Ronald Jones and Mark Ingram with his last 2 picks. I mean, this is a bit brutal. Not terrible overall. Solid tight ends, solid quarterbacks. Oh, no, he's the guy who took Tom Brady pretty early. Yeah, a bit brutal. I said Ertz hair, man. Bleached it. Oh, Ertz hair. Yeah, he bleached it. I saw that in the week 1 game because they had that primetime game. Man, I wish Hunter Henry would stay healthy. I think he's supposed to be fine by the start of the season. In a 2-quarterback league, how early do you usually go QBs? I'd want to get at least 1 to 2 of those elite QBs early. Those mobile upside QBs early. So, I mean, not the first pick overall. I'd go McCaffrey, but any other pick in that first round, yeah, I'd be thinking quarterback. In a super flex league, yep, I would be thinking quarterback for sure there. I'm the next pick, so what do we got left on the board here for me? Christian Kirk's there. Not many other things. Sammy Watkins is already taken. Running backs don't look great. Tight ends, I mean, Anthony Fersker is there. He's a solid tight end. And the other wide receivers I'm looking at are not that stand out to me. Like, who else is left here? Wide receiver, Alan Lazard's still there. I'm not gonna triple up on those Packers receivers. Nico Collins is there, but I think he can be there at my next pick. Although I might just take the stab on Nico Collins. I assume Olmedid is gone. So Olmedid is not gone here, but I think they're going to go to a lot of 2 tight end sets. So let's go Nico Collins. This is an early time to take him in the 16th round. I would have usually taken Alan Lazard there, but Nico Collins is the wide receiver 2. He's the wide receiver 2 on a Houston Texans team that, sure, I mean, they don't have, I would have rather taken him in the 17th, but the late 16th is fine. All I need now is another running back and another tight end. So Nico Collins, a starting wide receiver. They traded up. It was the second highest draft capital ever given up in the NFL draft history for a 3rd-round pick. They traded away 3 picks just for Nico Collins. They swapped a pick. They gave away a pick next year, a 4th-rounder, and then they gave away another pick this year. So Nico Collins is going to be involved. But Deshaun Watson's not there. I get it, but he's the end of the 16th round as an explosive rookie who went to a bad college program in Michigan in terms of using receivers, so that sucks. Ramondre Stevenson goes in the 16th round. I mean, that guy might see 25 carries this year. David Montgomery and Miles Sanders, how are you feeling about them two? I have Montgomery in this draft because he was my 4th pick, and he was like the only thing left. Sanders and Montgomery, like Sanders if you get him in the 5th round, yes. Montgomery if you get him at the end of the 4th like I did, as like you got 3 strong receivers already, sure. But if you're going with like a running back early, if you get a running back in the 1st or 2nd round, I'm not taking another one to like the 7th or 8th round. If you can get an Aaron Jones, if you can get a Zeke, even if you take a Najee Harris as your running back too, I'm just not taking another one for a while. Because the difference between David Montgomery this year and Zack Moss, which is like a 4 to 5 round difference, sometimes 6 round difference, I mean, it's not that far off. But David Montgomery was a workhorse last year, all this stuff. He finished top 10. I mean, it's not going to be the same. When Tariq Cohen gets back and healthy, he'll be involved in the passing game. When you see Damian Williams out there looking fantastic in the first preseason game, like way better than David Montgomery in terms of burst and ability, that's somewhat of a concern. So unless David Montgomery can go off for a 12-plus touchdown season, I feel a little concerned about getting him as like my 3rd pick or my 2nd running back. And like just the wide receivers that are at David Montgomery's spot, if you haven't gone wide receiver heavy like I have in this draft, are usually far better in my opinion. I mean, you're talking about T. Higgins, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, those types of guys I'd rather have over David Montgomery. Just because the opportunity cost is the running back in the next round is very similar. I mean, Damian Harris goes 4 rounds later. I don't see that big of a difference. So I'm looking here. KJ Hamler is so tempting. Anthony Fersker is still there, though. So we'll get our 2nd tight end at Anthony Fersker. That feels solid. I know the usage in week 1 of his 2 drives wasn't great. People are pointing out on Twitter. I don't really care about his 2 drives. They're going to play a lot of 2 wide receiver sets. He's going to be on the field. He's going to flank out on the in-line. I don't expect him to be in the slot. I expect him to be in line. In my last round pick, I'm probably going to go running back. Jerick McKinnon was on the board there. James White was on the board there. I mean, I'm looking at Tevin Coleman. Darrington Evans is banged up right now. That's a concern. I'm looking at Justin Jackson, the RB2. Just got to make sure these guys don't already overlap. I mean, I have Montgomery, Zack Moss, A.J. Dillon, and Gus Edwards. Do I really need to get a fucking Tevin Coleman? Or can I just go get another, not superstar, but another solid receiver option like a KJ Hamler, who's probably going to have 1 to 2 blow-up weeks. But he's the next guy best, so he's probably going to be gone. Your haircut looking fresh. Thanks. I got it like 2 hours ago. Jalen Slaughter says, wow. Wow what? Wow what? Is this a 12-man? How high are you on Kelsey? This is a 12-man. I don't have a single share of Kelsey. Kelsey goes with like a top 8 pick in every draft. I just don't buy it. I mean, Travis Kelsey last year, if he does that this year, which was the best tight end ever or best season ever for a tight end, then he will pay off his overall 8 spot, right? But if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't have the best tight end season in back-to-back years, he does not pay off a top 8 pick. It's just not going to happen. I know in best ball you get the positional advantage, so it's a little bit better. But I'm going to let somebody else make the mistake on drafting Kelsey with the first-round pick in my season-long leagues. I'm just not interested in it. I know the positionality advantage, but if you really want it that bad, why not just take Darren Waller at the end of the second, which is not that far off from Travis Kelsey. I know Kelsey is more consistent, but if you're just talking about spike weeks for best ball, Waller's going to have half his weeks be 20-plus point weeks or 18-plus point weeks. Is taking Kelsey and Waller a good head-to-head strategy? Seen some people recommending that, but your opinion means much more to me. Head-to-head strategy? What do you mean? Like for DraftKings? I don't really want... Like DraftKings, you mean? No. I'd rather have a receiver who's a lot more reliable. Yeah. Damn, KJ Hamler goes 2 picks before me. Alan Lazard is still there in the 18th round. I mean, I already have MVS and Adams, so I can't go there. Dwayne Eskridge is banged up, but he might be coming back. Omid Zaccheaus is still on the board. I mean, I could do receiver or running back here. Tevin Coleman's still there. He's going to be in a 3-headed backfield. Justin Jackson's apparently the lead candidate to be the RB2 right now with the Chargers. That's somewhat appealing for me as a goal line opportunity running back. What else is left on the board at running back? I mean, that's basically it. I'll go Justin Jackson over Tevin Coleman here. We'll hope for some goal line touchdowns. We'll hope Jackson, literally as an 18th round pick, if Justin Jackson can literally have one game where he's worthy of being in my starting lineup, it's worth the 18th round pick. One game where he scores, where he has 8 carries for 51 yards and a touchdown in like a catch. Wow, on your David Montgomery versus Moss comments. Thought there was a bigger gap, but I get the reason behind it. There's a bigger gap in my median projections, yes. Like in a median projection, David Montgomery is my running back 19, and Zack Moss is my, I mean, it's not that big. Zack Moss is my running back 28, and Montgomery is my running back 19. A 9-spot difference, right? I understand why people love Montgomery because they think he's going to have the same passing game usage as last year. I don't think so. They think he's going to continue to put up 20 points every single week against weak competition. I personally don't think so. I think Damian Williams is going to be involved in this offense. I think Justin Fields as a mobile quarterback is going to be involved on the ground in this offense and take away a lot of red zone touchdowns. Like, that's the one thing I haven't heard. Oh, but David Montgomery was using the red zone all this time. But what about Justin Fields, right? Like, we can use that these mobile quarterbacks are taking away usage from these guys, like Lamar Jackson, last 2 years, by far taking away usage and upside out of all his running backs in the red zone. But what about Justin Fields, who literally just had a rushing touchdown in the red zone on a scramble the other day? So I think that David Montgomery is a fine pick if you go 3 running backs heavy and he's your first running back because it's a decent 0 RB, quote unquote 0 RB way around it. But if you're going for it and your first pick's Devonte Adams, your second pick's Najee Harris. Solid start. Good start. Then your third pick is Amari Cooper, right? Solid start. 2 receivers and a running back. You shouldn't be taking David Montgomery with your 4th pick, in my opinion, because 2 rounds later, 3 rounds later, 4 rounds later, Zack Moss, Damian Harris, these guys not that far off. Trey Sermon, these guys not potentially that far off, are right there. What fantasy analyst do you recommend the most? I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really listen to any other fantasy analysts. I listen to a couple of podcasts. I listen to PFF. Like, I listen to podcasts that aren't fantasy. They're really like football podcasts. Like PFF's podcast, their daily one, not fantasy. It's just the PFF NFL podcast. They talk about the NFL from an overall standpoint, salary caps, how guys are looking, coaching situations, coaching schemes. And then the Athletic Football podcast. Those are the 2 that I listen to the most. Neither of them are fantasy. They're just football in general. I love how in-depth they go. You'll never hear that type of analysis in fantasy because fantasy analysts just don't know about that. Like literally schemes, like a high 2, how the NFL is transitioning from a high 1 to a high 2. And that's why Bill Belichick went out and got 2 tight ends and wants to run the ball because now everybody's going to a high 2 format, which means less guys in the box, which means it's easier to run the ball. And every other team is drafting these safeties and these DBs and these linebackers that are going to be better in a scheme of high 2. So Bill Belichick is zigging when everybody else has been zagging. All that type of stuff, right? Tight Faye, bro. Thank you. What up, Pimpin'? What's going on? Maybe a dumb question. I'm not great at NFL fantasy, which is why I'm here, says Bryce. No, I mean in a head-to-head format in a 12-team fantasy league. Yeah, I wouldn't go your first 2 picks, Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. I personally would not do that myself. Agreed. The haircut is looking fresh. Thank you. I appreciate that. Will Trevor Lawrence have a Justin Herbert-like season this year? I mean, it's definitely in his range of outcomes, yes. Ridley or Gibson at the 206 PPR? Depends who you take with your first pick. I like Ridley there, but it depends who you take with your first pick. It really depends who you take with your first pick. Like if your first pick is Aaron Jones, then yeah, I'd probably go Ridley. If your first pick is Devonte Adams, I'd probably still go Ridley. But if your first pick is, I don't know, Austin Eckler, maybe it depends on your first pick and what you're trying to do. It also depends who you're drafting with. Like if you're drafting in a league with guys who aren't sharp and you know you can get strong receivers in the 4th round where they usually fall off a little bit, then go double running back. But it depends on who you're drafting with. I personally, between Ridley and Gibson in the 2nd round, would go Ridley at the 2-6. Dan Belichick, a beast. Yeah, Flock. Took Zack Moss in the 10th round and went RB, wide receiver. Sounds good. Opinion on Goddard this year. I don't like him. I think he's overvalued. He's like my running back. He's my tight end 13. Zach Ertz is still there, and Zach Ertz is going to be heavily involved. People want to say that he's dust because he had a bad year last year. He's still going to be heavily involved this year, Zach Ertz. Like very involved. Like on the field just as much, if not more, than Dallas Goedert. That's just how it is. I know his contract is a lot of money, but if they can't dish him somewhere else by the beginning of the year, well, then Zach Ertz is going to be on this field because of his contract. Zach Ertz is 30 years old. It's not like he's insanely old. That is old for the NFL. No, for running backs it is. I mean, Travis Kelce's 32, right? Gronk is 32. These other tight ends who are performing highly are a lot older than him, football-wise. All right, I think I'm going to bounce. We've been live for about 50 minutes. I'm going to bounce. I don't think I'm going live for the Friday 2-game slate tonight. There's a video out for it for the preseason. We have, if you're a Patreon member, if you're not, you can sign up down below. If you want to draft with me on Underdog or just draft in general, use the code SAL. You get a free $25. That's all linked down below. My tiers, also, all this stuff is linked down below if you want to use my tiers, all that type of stuff in the draft guide. But it's Friday night. I don't think I'm going to. We released a video this morning. We just streamed now. It's only a 2-game slate. We'll have a video out for tomorrow's 10 games on Saturday. We'll have that out tomorrow morning for the preseason. If you want to know the updated news that's coming out, just get onto Patreon. There's going to be about 10 to 11 pages of game notes for the 2 games tonight, including my overall rankings and tiers. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on the most recent news, because things have already changed in terms of news that's come out on playing time and who's hurt and who got hurt in practice yesterday and the day before, you can check it out down below. Thanks for streaming. Much love, my man. Same to you. In my draft, I got the last pick, and I still got Adams, and then the start of the second got Kelce. Yeah, it's not a bad start. Who would your first 3 picks be? First 3 picks overall? For me, my rankings are McCaffrey, Zeke, and Dalvin Cook. All right, peace out. See you on the next one.